Hello, and welcome to our webinar on the advantages of Mac in higher and further education. Today, we'll be covering a range of topics, including a deep dive into the benefits of Mac that will cover cost savings, privacy and security, and sustainability. Then, we'll hear from Richard Mortimer, Technical Services Manager at the University of Staffordshire, on their journey with Mac. I'm Abby, the Marketing Manager here at Jigsaw24, and today I'm joined by Carlo Rocco, one of our account managers, and Shamoon Dean, our Business Development Manager.
Thanks, Abby, and today we are going to talk about the benefits of Mac in higher and further education. Higher and further education institutions juggle numerous priorities, such as student enrolment, financial stability, and talent retention, all while working to create the best learning environment for students. However, what truly drives the success of any institution is its people, particularly the staff who provide crucial support in various areas, including admissions, student affairs, and financial services, to name a few. The performance and engagement of your staff directly affects your institution's ability to achieve its goals. As leaders, you can maximise your staff's potential by fostering a positive work environment. Technology plays a critical role in fostering a good learning environment to support your lecturers and students. Today, we want to talk specifically about the tools institutions provide to their staff and the significant impact these tools can have on their overall job satisfaction and performance. Because when people have access to the best tools, it enhances their quality of work, promotes collaboration, and boosts engagement. Simply, they do their best work. Mac is a complete end-to-end platform that delivers the technology solutions higher and further education institutes need. When institutions choose Mac, they are choosing state-of-the-art, industry-standard features and apps that enable students to develop professional skills so that they have the best opportunities to succeed in their futures. With the powerful performance of Apple Silicon, educators can get more done faster, from analysing large data sets to running statistical models and multitasking in all kinds of apps. Lecturers and students can stay productive all day on Mac, from managing records, scheduling appointments, and collaborating on presentations, all on a single charge. And with the incredible security features on Mac, staff can make sensitive student and institutional information with confidence and reassurance. Here we have a powerful statement from Dr. Tony Allen, the President of Delaware State University, which simply states, Mac is the tool of creative problem solvers. With the newly released Apple Intelligent features, this means even better access and integration of information.
And every Mac with Apple Silicon is built for AI and machine learning. With AI-enabled hardware, powerful built-in Mac OS features, and third-party apps, Mac is ready for your institution's most complex AI workflows. Apple Intelligence in Mac OS, new productivity features can help users to work effortlessly whilst being creative and expressing new ideas, ensuring privacy and security. Total cost of ownership is a critical consideration when institutions invest in any new technology. The total cost of deploying Mac can yield long-term savings, so leaders can optimize budgets and have peace of mind when making decisions about technology. A study by the Forrester Consulting on the total economic impact found that Mac has a 30% residual value compared with 15% for a PC after 4 years. So once it's time to upgrade, Mac can be traded in, allowing institutions to recoup costs and reinvest in new devices. Institutions can also rely on Mac to be sustainable, durable, and built to last. Mac also manages power consumption intelligently, making it more efficient so your institution can save on energy costs. According to the TEI study, respondents reported that Mac consumes 56% less energy compared with a PC, and this is a key sustainability advantage.
When it comes to sustainability, Apple's efforts extend beyond their employees to their suppliers and the communities they operate in. Sustainability is one of Apple's key pillars. This is highlighted by their plan to make every Apple product carbon neutral by 2030. This focus considers supply chain, energy efficiency, carbon footprint, and recycled materials. Here is a short video to dive into some of the key steps of their plan to make every product carbon neutral by 2030.
Apple has a plan and a promise. To make Apple carbon neutral. Wait, no, we've already done that. To make every single Apple product carbon neutral by 2030. Even yours. We're working to make every iPhone, iPad, watch, and Mac with 100% recycled or renewable materials. We're finding new ways to extract aluminum, steel, tin, tungsten, and plastic from recycled Apple products. We're growing enough trees and recycling enough paper to sustain all our packaging. But we can do much more. It's not just what goes into our products, it's also how they're made. Hundreds of manufacturers, distributors, testers, assemblers, disassemblers, and material makers all upgrading to 100% renewable energy. A lot of them are even going zero waste. But it's still not enough. Manufacturing is just a part of it. What about all of you? This is a big one. Apple devices are all over the world, and by 2030, all of the electricity charging all of your devices will be 100% renewable. So you're a part of this too. Because Apple is going carbon neutral. No, everything Apple is going carbon neutral. Apple has a plan.
Now we move into how Mac can reduce IT support time. Deploying Mac not only saves on costs, but also on time. Mac reduces the time IT needs to spend supporting devices. With easy out-of-the-box setup, onboarding staff is a breeze. Zero-touch deployment enables IT to configure and manage devices remotely and customize the user setup experience, so every Mac is ready to go before it gets into the hands of your staff. And expert ongoing support provided by Apple means a lighter help desk workload, so IT can focus on other strategic priorities. Mac is secure to the core and straight out of the box. Powerful privacy features are built into every Mac to protect institutional and personal data, so your staff can control their information and feel safe. Mac's privacy and security settings allow you to control what information your Mac shares with others and how to protect your data, a critical feature for research and design institutions. You can use these settings to limit app access, protect your data, control personalized ads, and review usage data. Let's hear from Bill Adams, the Field Services Associate Director for the University of Kentucky, who set out to prove that Apple was too expensive for the university. As it turns out, he discovered that the opposite was true. Now he's fully embraced Apple technology across the entire campus.
I love data, and I've been in IT for a long time. About 8 years ago, I started looking at the total cost of purchasing, deploying, and supporting all of the devices hitting our network. I thought Apple devices were too expensive, and I was hoping to prove that once and for all. What we discovered is that the most expensive part of technology ownership was the labor to keep it supported and running, not the purchase price.
We went through the first year, right?
Apple technology, from procurement to surplus, is more cost-effective to support for security reasons, customer performance, and customer requests. We found 60% reduction in labor across the board, and it shocked us, but iPads were the real winner. Our data shows that one technician can support about 120 PC-based tablets. That same technician can support 1,200 iPads. We have 30,000 plus devices within our Jamf infrastructure. And the ease in which we're able to deploy Apple technology without even a university employee touching it, second to none. All technology is not created equal. It matters which one you buy. At no point in my life did I think I would be switching to Apple technology. And I am very glad that I did.
Let's dive into why lecturers, students, and staff love working on a Mac. In short, it empowers success. It is easy to use, delivers powerful performance, and integrates seamlessly with their other Apple products. Let's talk about this further. Mac comes with apps that are built in, fully functional, and ready to use. It also offers compatibility with native apps such as Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, and Adobe Creative Cloud, as well as many other productivity apps and services used in higher and further education. Offering Mac gives staff and students the option to personalize their devices with apps they love to use, making them more productive, creative, and collaborative. Apple Silicon brings game-changing power and lightning speed to everything you do on Mac. Super fast processors power through intensive workloads. So whether employees are taking on everyday tasks or their next big project, they can do it all on Mac faster than ever. And thanks to the efficiency of Apple Silicon, Mac laptops deliver all-day battery life without any drop in performance when they're unplugged. Apple is popular among consumers, and both lecturers and students want to use the Apple products they love seamlessly at home, college and university. In the 2022 Creative Strategy Survey on employee experience, 60% of the employees surveyed expressed a strong preference to use Mac in the workplace. Employees love Mac because it's easy to use, provides powerful performance and battery life, and it offers top-notch privacy and data security. Employees also want to attract the brightest and best recruits in order to continue to innovate, and this competition for talent is growing all the time. The ability to use a Mac is increasingly a factor in the decision-making process for new starters who want tools at work they are already familiar with and love to use.
Let's just consider some of the benefits of Mac seen across K-12 where budgets are increasingly tight, and consider some of the cost benefits. They report a 48% return on ROI investment, 30% device residual value for iPad, and reduced 25% maintenance, management and labour with MacBook Air, 35% less labour costs for device maintenance and management, 15% lower teaching turnover, saving searching and training new staff, and also 30 hours of teaching time saved per year. Glancing at the K-12 arena, the Forrester study also reveals key improvements to reliability and resilience, IT operational efficiencies, lower security threats, and less full-time resources required to manage devices. So without Apple, you'd be looking at approximately 8 IT staff, and with Apple, 5.2.
We were delighted to be joined by Richard Mortimer from the University of Staffordshire, who told us his thoughts on Mac.
Today, we're joined by Richard Mortimer, the Technical Services Manager at University of Staffordshire, and Carlo Rocco, our Higher Education Account Manager at Jigsaw 24. Good morning. It's great to see you both.
Good morning.
So, Rich, can you tell us a bit more about how University of Staffordshire are using Mac?
Yeah, sure. So at the university, we've got a really wide portfolio of art and design and media courses. And we've used Macs for professional work across those courses for the better part of 20 years. So in terms of specifics, we're talking film production, post-production, photography, music production, graphic design, elements of other design work and workflow. So quick head count, we've probably got an estate of about 250 Macs across our art and design and media campuses. And we, as a technical team, we work to image, deploy, support and teach the specialist software across those platforms. So yeah, our relationship with the Mac platform goes back to certainly before OS 10. So it's always been something that's just holistically, if you like, and organically been part of what we do as an organization in terms of the type of vocational industry-based course that we deliver.
Great. And I mean, obviously, sounds like you guys have been using it, obviously 20 years. That's got to be one of like the early adopters of this technology. So how has it impacted and almost influenced these courses throughout that time?
I mean, with the type of course that we teach, because we are a vocational industry facing organisation in terms of the practical skill set, it's very much a horses for courses situation for us. So again, in a creative design and media world, that's wrapped up, or has been historically wrapped up, on the Mac platform. So again, we've needed to make sure that our students and our graduates are exposed to the right type of technology. And in that art and design and in that media world, using Mac OS together with professional software, it's just one of those, it's an expectation. If students are going to get real world experience whilst they're studying, and also get jobs when they graduate. We've had a number of different experiences in terms of how we image and deploy our Macs, and obviously that's changed in recent years. So we're using the Jamf platform, which is just an extra consideration for us as a technical team. Prior to that, it was a different type of imaging and deployment that we would manage. We've even had scenarios in some of our labs, such as in the broadcast areas, where we used to have a very strong cohort of journalism courses, where we've run dual boot and we've run Windows off native Intel Macs, and that worked well because that type of environment needs to run news software that is Windows based. But ironically enough, we've still done that on a Mac because I think one thing that's important as an organization is to get a degree of longevity out of our workstations. And again, something the Mac platform has allowed us to do across all of the time that I've been at the university, which is coming up on my 21st anniversary shortly, is we've had longevity of hardware, and we've been able to trust that hardware in a creative student facing environment to give us 5, 6, 7 years worth of service. And that's important for an organization because, again, you know, we need to make sure that when we do replace our workstations, that we're doing it in a cost effective manner.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums it up perfectly. Obviously, the fact that you're able to use these devices for so long after purchase obviously helps with the whole setup and workflow, like within the universities. That's great. You obviously mentioned the different suites that you have. Do you mind just diving into that a bit more? Like, which ones do you have? Are they like slightly different in any way?
Yeah, so we've got a variety of labs. So from a media perspective, if we look at media first, we run a range of music courses. And we've got specialist music studios and control rooms, but also labs. They are 100% Mac centric. So we will be running applications like Logic Pro, Pro Tools, Ableton Live, all manner of plugins in that environment. And I mean, that's again very much a horses for courses. You go into a professional music making environment, you expect to see the Mac platform. We've got a range of in the labs, we're running Mac Minis, but in the studios, we've been running Mac Pros, soon to be Mac Studios, as part of a capital project to overhaul those devices. All of our specialist film post-production labs are, again, Mac centric. We did a few years ago, up until a few years ago, retain a Windows estate as well, although it was much smaller than the Mac estate. But we removed that. We're 100% Mac centric. And that's the Adobe applications, historically Final Cut Pro, but also Avid. So our Avid editing is done on the Mac platform. I've mentioned previously that we have some broadcast labs, broadcast newsroom, and that is running predominantly on Mac OS, where we've dual booted, and we're even on Intel machines. We run Windows natively again because the performance is absolutely grand, and the longevity of the workstations suits us. And then all of our art and design portfolio, we've got little enclaves across campus of Mac labs that are specific to different awards, and that encompasses fashion, surface pattern, which is a creative fashion centric award, or at least it's a surface pattern, if you like, centric award. It doesn't necessarily have to be fashion related. We've got graphics, we've got the photography awards, which again in both studio spaces and labs are all post-production, pre-production, tethered shooting are all done on Mac, and some of the other specialist areas as well. So product making, furniture making, we find that enclave, or those different enclaves, are all largely done, if not exclusively done on the Mac platform.
Amazing. I mean, that's obviously incredible, like all the different like nuances and how you're obviously integrating that within the school and within obviously the courses. It's also great to hear, obviously, like compatibility wise, like that seems almost flawless between all of the different courses, requirements, applications, and things like that. So yeah, no, that's really it's really great to hear. Um, I was going to ask about the favor of Mac devices. Obviously, you mentioned about switching some from Windows to Mac quite recently. Do you mind telling us a bit about like the thought process behind that and how that decision came about?
Yeah, so this is in relation to film. And obviously we as an institution, our portfolio of courses changes organically as well. So we have to be quite fluid and understand what suits the awards that we're running and what suits the nature of the work that students are undertaking. And we historically had Windows-based and Mac-based post-production labs. But again, we found that the Mac-based labs offered, by virtue of hardware, a better degree of longevity. Students actually preferred to work on the Mac platform. And ultimately, some of our Windows spaces were being kept probably exclusively so students could use Avid. But we've integrated Avid on a Mac platform. We've introduced Avid to a wider cohort of students as a result of that. And we found that we didn't need to have the additional complication because our technicians are very Mac centric in terms of how they teach the software and the way the organization divides up workloads. We also actually take ownership of the imaging and deployment of Macs. We found that we didn't need the additional complication, if you like, of having both platforms, and that we could deliver in a post-production environment, we could deliver everything that our students need on the Mac platform without having to worry about having a Windows platform too, which was slightly more complicated in terms of the resource we've got to image and deploy. We had to work closer to our digital services department. And it was probably an extra consideration that we actually didn't need to make.
Okay, that's really interesting. Obviously, that switch, I'm glad to hear that it obviously went well and was quite a smooth transition for you guys. Because obviously, from our experience, from our side, and obviously, Carlo, feel free to jump in. But obviously, a lot of that post-production landscape, as you mentioned earlier, these are what they're using once they're in jobs and in situ. So actually, almost having that preparation whilst in school and being trained on these tools, I guess, have you guys noticed that difference within like students and sort of like that transition post university?
We've just had obviously we keep in touch with some of our graduates. We try to keep in touch through our partners with what's happening in industry. We've not received any feedback to the contrary in terms of to question our decision to be, almost 100% Mac centric in terms of our creative awards. So our students who go out into industry, if we look at those that graduate through our film production course and perhaps show a particular aptitude for post-production and go and work at post houses, it gives them a knowledge of an OS as well as a knowledge of the specialist software that again makes them employable. And that's the key thing for us. Yep. We want to make sure that our students are as employable as possible, and that's to give them the skills that will enable them to go into industry and get decent jobs, immediately after graduating. And part of that is to cross not just the post-production landscape or the Mac-based landscape. It's to give them exposure to the tools and the equipment that they're going to come across in industry. And we have no reason to doubt that in keeping the type of course, the art and design and the media courses, Mac-centric, that we're doing that with them. So no, I mean the students are very comfortable working on the Mac platform. The staff are very comfortable working on and supporting the Mac platform and have been holistically. If I go back to, again, the 20 years worth of experience, we've all as staff been brought up working on the various different iterations of the OS as well as the software. So that fits hand in glove. And we've no reason from feedback from graduates or students to suspect that there's any untoward issues with that, or that students are feeling that not being exposed to specialist software in a Windows environment is holding them back in any capacity. Certainly not.
Okay, great. No, that's really interesting. And thanks for obviously telling us a bit more around that. Um, I'd ask about obviously the favour of Mac devices, and like say, like obviously the staff and students are all sort of clued up on it. Was there obviously where did this favour come from, and have you had any issues of people almost like that switcher from Windows to Mac?
Not particularly, because again, historically at this organisation, because of the type of course we've run, we've always had a very sizable Mac estate. So, and we've a lot of our technical staff have studied here, so they will have been exposed to the platform as students. And then obviously when they've gone on to work and support students, they're exposed to the back end of the platform as well, if you like. We've made sure that we keep a handful of our staff equipped in terms of the actual back end knowledge, so knowledge of the operating system. So some of the Apple qualifications, the support professional type flavour qualification, that's important to have staff who are au fait with that. The biggest challenge or the biggest change, I guess, in terms of supporting an extensive Mac estate across any organisation, but certainly across higher education, where obviously we have to make sure that we are working within the bounds of our digital services and cyber security as well commitments. I suppose the biggest single change was moving away from traditional imaging and onto the Jamf platform.
Mm-hmm.
I think that at face value, that probably introduced an extra layer of complexity to what we were doing at the time. But we've worked with partners to ensure that we are now headed up by about 2 or 3 staff within the broader technical team, with support from our digital services department, that we are au fait with that way of imaging and deployment. That was probably the biggest single challenge, in truth, that's happened. My background, even before I came to the University of Staffordshire, the nature of degrees that I've studied exposed me to the Mac platform going back to, I would tempted to say, 1999. And much like many of my colleagues, I found it, in terms of doing creative work, even at university level, I found that the platform was very logical. So we've got a group of staff that have probably had a similar experience to that, and have effectively, I guess, they've been, certainly professionally at least, they've been brought up with the Mac platform. So if you were to put those individuals in front of a Windows machine, I wouldn't go so far as to say they'd become Luddites. But what they do, what they think in the Mac platform, in terms of keyboard shortcuts, in terms of deployment, in terms of where everything is. So how our whole operation from a technical perspective, both student teaching and learning and deployment, would suddenly become an awful lot more clunky.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, actually, because it is that intuitiveness of the devices. Because I mean, I've used both, and I find obviously on the Mac, it just feels a lot more like fluid, and like Windows, you're very much quite stuck in certain ways. So it's really interesting. Obviously, you guys have picked up on that and sort of adapted.
On a personal level, that's true of me. So I've been involved in not for over a decade now, but I was involved in the student facing aspect of this. So I have imaged and deployed back in the day. I still use a Mac in a managerial capacity. You could argue whether or not that's absolutely essential, but what I would have to say to colleagues if I was to leave this organisation and work elsewhere is, if you put me on a Windows environment, things that I do instinctively, even if it's opening a spreadsheet, opening an application, saving something, I do it. I think Mac-centric.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mac-centric, and even going back to when I was a student, I found the platform to be very logical. And that was what drew me towards Mac initially 25, 26 years ago, was that here was something that broadly speaking, when you were in the OS and you were outside of the specialist software, there was a logic to what you were doing. and it was very comfortable. And I could tell even then that the OS was built around supporting the specialist software. And I wasn't somebody who was that computer centric all that time ago. So it changed. It did transform how I interacted with a device, with a workstation. And that's true for a lot of our staff. And again, I you know, in whatever I do now, I do it both at home and in a professional sense on a Mac platform, because there's an instinct there and I wouldn't want to lose that, because if I lost that instinct, I actually wouldn't be as productive in my work, even though I'm no longer a creative professional.
I think for my side as well, Rich, the best way to summarize that is people do their best work when they have access to the best tools. And as simple as that sounds, that's what Mac enables in terms of its credentials and how it works in a number of environments. So you've summed that up pretty perfectly.
Yeah. Great. Well, I mean, thank you so much for your time, and obviously for your insights and sort of running through how you guys are obviously implementing and utilizing Mac. I think it's been really interesting, and yeah, some great points, and yeah, really enjoyed this conversation.
No problem. Thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you
Rich.
soon.
The University of Staffordshire are the perfect example of how universities are embedding and implementing Mac estates. The quote on screen from Richard Mortimer perfectly sums up the power of Mac. Here at Jigsaw 24, we have a strong history of delivering projects for top institutions across the country. We have been awarded places on multiple purchasing frameworks for IT products and services, such as the Crown Commercial Services, RM6098, TPAS 2 Lot 6, which covers education technology, the Northwest Universities Purchasing Consortium, the Broadcast Equipment and Integration Services, which covers audio, vision and lighting equipment, and G-Cloud 14, which covers Adobe and Jamf services, as well as other cloud-based solutions.
Thank you for listening today, and we hope you enjoyed the content on Mac provided. If you have any questions or you would like to discuss your digital estate and how we may be of service, you can contact us using the details shown on screen or by visiting us online.